Hello YouTube. Tonight I'll be doing a video on my collection of Games for Windows Live games. It is 100% complete with two exceptions. We'll get into that. Nearly everything is sealed, as you can see, with only a couple of exceptions, and I tried looking this up. Can't seem to find anyone that's actually been able to do what I've done. Some of these games over the years have actually risen by an exponential amount, making it very unaffordable and rightfully stupid to do now. However, some of these games do hold their value because they have been removed completely from either the Microsoft Marketplace, Steam as well, or actually even patched out the Games for Windows platform, such as BioShock, putting in Steamworks, making it unable to play through your Xbox account. So we'll get into it. So if you stumbled upon this video, you probably know what this platform is, but if you don't, Games for Windows Live was actually started in I believe 2007. One of the first titles launched was Grand Theft Auto 4, and it was more of an attempt to attract more PC gaming as Microsoft saw this rise of Steam. And of course, present day today, Steam is a massive player in online digital gaming and digital game ownership. Microsoft has stopped actually licensing games and giving out the platform. They're now either on their own platform. You have Steam, you have Epic Game Store, but the online capabilities are usually just either through the parent company, but through here it's actually hosted through Microsoft. So all of these games here are still online capable with very few exceptions. For example, I could go and play Battle Station Pacific. I can go and play it online. It would require an Xbox account, but it still works. Microsoft has announced that they will not be removing this service. Not yet, as there was a big rumor going around it was being shut down. Now, there was also a few games in the platform that involved crossplay, and we will get into that. There was 3 physical, and 1 was digital. Crossplay allowed you to actually play amongst Xbox 360 at the time. The Xbox One wasn't made. The Xbox 360 community, for example, my buddy picked up Lost Planet Extreme Condition. I can go and play it with him through my computer. It was very uncommon at the time to have this, to have crossplay, but it's now a pretty common thing amongst certain games. So what you're seeing here is some games were only released in the UK. Some games were only released in Japan. Some only in the United States. Some only in Russia. And I'll be covering this all in this video. It's going to be a bit of a long one. I've been meaning to make this for a good 2-3 years. I completed this collection in 2016, when all these games were maybe $5-10 a piece. So let's get into it. So first off, I'll be starting with Age of Empires. Everyone knows Age of Empires. Online game, lots of progression, lots of content, lots of detail. Unfortunately, this game has actually been removed online completely. So this game was online only, and when you purchase this either through Amazon or something similar, it was just a code card for content. That's all it was. Online only, and I believe it was in 2016 the online services were completely shut down, nullifying this game. So I thought I'd make this video tonight as I actually just sold one of these games, which would then officially be breaking up the collection. And the one that I sold was this one. It only took probably half a day. So this was Ace Combat Assault Horizon. Originally sold on Steam, and then Steam evidently patched out the Games for Windows platform. As we all know, the Games for Windows Live is considered one of the worst platforms ever made in modern gaming, riddled with bugs, the old ugly CD keys, between some and most of the games, such as this one, were one-time use only, so if you made just a throwaway Xbox account, lost it, whatever, reformatted your computer, changed computers, you could not play online. Effectively, you just lost your money. So this game was only released in the United Kingdom as a physical format. It was sold on Steam for a few years, but it was evidently patched out as the community pushed for it. And this game I sold for 70 bucks. So these next two I'd like to do side by side, as they are very similar. So obviously they're both Australian Football League, they're both rugby football. Only released in Australia, so you can see the Australian rating system. Only released physically. These never had a digital release. When I bought these, it didn't come cheap, but I was quite surprised that these were actually never plastic wrapped. This is how they were sold. I was sold from a direct distributor that's been selling these games for years. Just a big oversized sticker seal. So these are going to be easily the rarest of all of them, but not the most valuable. Just very low print volume. Even the Xbox 360 ones, although not very expensive, are extremely hard to find in North America, as rugby is not very popular over here. Next up we have Battle Station Specific. As you can see, this is a totally different style case, and that is just how this platform really was. There was no strict direction. So for example, there's no Games for Windows Live indication, but this actually does come with a disc and a CD key. Very good game. This is still available on Steam actually. And I do apologize about the reflection. So we're gonna go in twos again. Right now we have Bulletstorm. This was a very big competitor to kind of the whole Call of Duty, Gears of War, really gory scene of first-person shooters. Basic edition, limited edition. This just came with, I believe it was a map pack. Yeah, and experience points. This game ultimately failed because of the saturated market of Call of Duty and Gears of War. Very good game though. And so now we have the Batman games for the Games for Windows Live platform. We just have the basic edition, and then we have the Game of the Year edition for Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, of course, both games, fantastic games. And then we have Game of the Year. So these two are actually different achievement sets according to achievement websites. So even though they're the exact same game, this has just one or two Actually, I believe there was 4 extra challenge maps, the Game of the Year edition, completely different achievement set. And the Game of the Year for Arkham City is just a simple extra couple discs. And of course, with it being disc format, you have to insert every single disc and wait for all of it to install. So what we have next is BioShock 2, the infamous from the infamous BioShock series. Everyone knows this game. Excellent game. What you may notice though is 2 of these are actually not in English. That's because, again, in terms of achievements and gamer score, the Russian release of this is completely different from the English version. Just as on the Xbox 360, the Korean version of BioShock 2 is completely different from the North American. I've actually sold about 6 or 7 of these, all to really big achievement hunters. So this is just more of just like a limited edition, comes with a small keychain, and this is just a simple small jewel case. These are all factory sealed. These are not, you know, sealed in the backyard of some guy's house. This is how they actually came from the store. And of course, we have the North American version. Yes, you can see the difference. Now, you may be asking, what about, well, was there a complete edition? Was there a DLC? No, not for BioShock 2. Neither variants actually had a Game of the Year, complete edition, a gold edition, nothing like that. Nothing we see today. It was only available digitally on the Xbox Live Marketplace. And there were some examples sold on Amazon as simple keys that you would enter into the Xbox Marketplace. So next up we have Battle vs. Chess. This actually comes from the factory, from the distributor. More of like a slip cover, kind of what you see in new 4K movies now. Just a simple chess game. Of course, games from Windows Live. Pretty cool game, very simplistic. This game is actually a one-code use. BioShock is not. So this game, if you end up losing your Xbox account, or whatever you actually registered the game to, you can't play online. And of course, we have the old Mac symbol. Never released in North America, only in Europe. Right, this was actually from Germany. It was only produced in Germany. So we have BlazBlue, Calamity Trigger. Actually, I was incorrect about my statement earlier in the video. There was actually 5 games that were cross-compatible. BlazBlue, Shadowrun, Lost Planet, Extreme Condition, Universe at War. These are all not very uncommon titles. Shadowrun, probably the least popular of the bunch. And the addition, the digital game called Game Room, where you could challenge your friends, play each other's arcade games. It was free to play, but very pay orientated if you wanted to play the game. Of course, double size cases, all sealed. Now with Lost Planet, it actually came out with 2 different variants. Same on the Xbox 360. They just had the Extreme Condition and they had the Colonies Edition. More of a game of the year. But still all cross-compatible. If you had a friend playing Xbox 360, he could literally invite you to a game and you would play with him. So again, only 5 games ended up actually getting this. One was digital, one really wasn't a true kind of game. It was more of just a arcade style game where you had to pay to essentially enjoy it and play. All of these are fully complete games, fully cross-compatible. More of a real-time strategy game, third-person shooter. Actually, as you can see on Shadowrun, play with 360 gamers. Play together. Windows Vista, that makes me feel old. I believe this is a third-person shooter, possibly hack and slash. I never actually played this game. And then we have BlazBlue. Calamity Trigger. Anime game. Anime-based game. So next we have is actually a bit of a tangent I'm going on. So the game is Crash Time for the Syndicate. This was never released, actually, in North America. Even the English versions were made in Germany. Now this one's actually unsealed. And the code card simply came like this. You can go ahead and try it. It's used, believe me. Just on a simple piece of photo paper. But, so just one simple disc. That's all it came on. Now the reason why I have the German version is because this code here actually applies to this because these are considered the same game. This is just printed in a different language. So next up we have probably the second most, if not the most expensive, valuable game here. Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition. Now the Games for Windows Live platform never actually received a normal variant of this game. Prepare to Die Edition actually, yeah, it has a little bit of extra content. New content, so sort of like a Game of the Year edition. Still sealed in the plastic. You can tell by the annoying reflection. Never released in North America, only Europe. This game sells anywhere from, I'm talking US dollars, anywhere from 100 to 300. There's a huge range if it's sealed. Very rarely do these even come up for sale now. I remember I actually bought this, I think it was 5 years ago. Only paid about 20 bucks. There wasn't many listings, but they had essentially no value. Should have bought more. And what makes this game so valuable is actually because Steam was the main source of this game, patched out the Games for Windows Live variant due to cult following of the game. Excellent game. Everyone knows Dark Souls. Extremely difficult. Third person, hack and slash style game. Very unforgiving. Steam patched out the Games for Windows Live platform, replacing with Steamworks, essentially making this game impossible to play if you want Xbox Live integration. Although I can tell you, I did manage to scrounge up a digital copy for this game from an old hard drive before Steam patched it out. I played for probably a few days and never got invaded once, meaning that no one plays this. The Games for Windows Live version. Definitely a very cool game though. So next up, everyone knows Dead Rising. Dead Rising 2, Dead Rising 2 off the record. These came out at the exact same time as the Xbox and PS3 versions. No funny business here, just basic releases. Not worth very much money, although the American version actually tends to be pretty rare. Off the record, European variant actually has a completely different cover, if I recall. Both are pretty good games. Dead Rising 2, the code only works once. So again, you forget your Xbox account, you might as well throw the game away. You can't play online. Dead Rising 2 off the record. I noticed something different. It's actually this code that comes with the copy will work indefinitely, but only on the said game. Only on this game. I've only seen that with one other game. So again, very underdeveloped platform. Really had no strict rules. And ultimately led to its failure. So next up, we have the Dirt series. Yes, Dirt 2 was released in Games Windows Live. So, big box. North American version, pretty uncommon. Pretty rare. In fact, it's sealed too, even rarer. Dirt 3 ended up getting Games Windows Live patched out. Of course, like Dark Souls, big cult following on Steam. Evidently, it takes a while for it to be patched out, but it was. And all those who own Dirt 3 on Steam was given a complete separate edition, the complete edition, for free. Now, if I were to insert the complete edition for free, I would gain access to all of the content and still have Games Windows Live capability. Steam version patched it all out. Dirt 2 actually delisted from the Steam marketplace. You cannot purchase it anymore. You can only purchase a code for it on eBay, which now rarely show up. They used to be only $1 to $2. However, if you do manage to find one and activate it on Steam, you can play with your Xbox account. Fallout 3. Of course, everyone knows Fallout. Excellent, excellent game. What's interesting about this game actually is what was common in older games such as this was DLC packs were completely separate releases. Requires Fallout 3 content to play. Now, sometimes they don't even include a disc. I don't hear any shaking, so I think it was just a simple code that you would activate on the Xbox Marketplace, perhaps Steam Marketplace. Again, popular title, cult following, Steam patched out Games Windows Live and replaced it with Steamworks and Fallout 3. Now, this particular copy was very difficult to obtain in a sealed manner. The basic Fallout 3 launch edition, North American variant, brand new sealed. So very, very difficult to find. Managed to find it. And of course, Game of the Year. Seagate Operation Anchorage to Pit, Broken Steel, Point Lookout. Mothership Zeta. Very good game. Excellent example of a video game. So next we have a pretty controversial game, Fable 3, sequel to Fable 2. Fable 2 being a sequel to Fable. This one is actually not sealed. Came on one disc. And the product key was just a simple sticker. That's all it really was. And you have an advertisement for Age of Empires. Now this game, of course, I'm showing the product key because it was only a one-time use. This was on Steam as well, where I purchased a copy. And the issue with the Steam is that it's actually delisted now. You can't buy it anymore. And trying to find one of these physically, you're going to be paying anywhere from 40 to 60 bucks. Because if it's used, you can almost guarantee the key, the CD key, the activation code, will be used. And what's surprisingly, you can play this in 3D. So this is kind of around the area. 3D made its debut. And on the PC version, you actually did get some extra content. Now, the DLC for this game was only available digitally. Codes were available on Amazon for a very short period of time through the Xbox Marketplace and through Steam. Now, Fable 2 actually never made it to Games for Windows Live. It was produced and released just kind of before this platform made its debut. So these two are pretty uncommon games. F1 series, not very popular. In fact, very unpopular in the North American regions. Even some F1 games are PAL released, meaning they will not work on a North American 360. So only these two games were released. Games for Windows Live. 2012 removed the live designation, although games were produced in 2012 with the Games for Windows Live format. Like most games, purchasable on Steam, and I believe they still are. Never released in North America physically, hence the PEGI 3. So we're going to be doing another dynamic duo here. So we have Fuel and Flat Out Carnage. Both are actually very excellent games. Flat Out was more of like a destruction driving, similar to Wreckfest. Very good game. Fuel, if I'm not mistaken, was an open world racing. Kind of like MX versus ATV, MX Unleashed, that kind of style. But more than just motocross. Lots of vehicles available. So here we have Gears of War. Available in a slipcover. North American release. A little banged up, but still, it's the real deal. This is the grandfather of the entire series. First release. Marketed very heavily and did extremely successful sales. Now, to go off on a bit of a tangent, what a lot of people don't know is actually this PC version had extra content that the Xbox 360 version didn't. 5 new game chapters, 3 multiplayer maps, new game mode, 50 additional achievements. That's just because of the platforming. So Gears of War PC and Gears of War for the 360 are separate, as with every single one of these games. So what Microsoft actually snuck in for Gears of War Ultimate Edition release on the Xbox One, they just simply added this content onto the disc. And I remember when they were marketing it, they said never before seen content. That's actually false. It was on the PC version. It's just that no one bought this. As you can hear multi-disc in there. Very good game. Very, very good game. If I'm correct, this was never available on Steam. It was only released physically, and I believe it was limited supply on the Xbox Live Marketplace for PC. So, good game. So next up, our favorite Nico Bellic and cousin Roman. Grand Theft Auto 4. This game was unbelievable when this came out. And still today, there are videos you can look up. For example, by Crowcat, that shows Grand Theft Auto 4, in some ways more than one, is actually better than Grand Theft Auto 5. In terms of detail, character reactions, that sort of stuff. So this came 2 discs, big game, available largely on Steam. Even though this game has a huge cult following, not as big as Dark Souls, but still considerable. Canadian version, hence the French. This game was actually never patched out of Games for Windows Live. So if you went and bought this game on Steam today, it would still be through Games for Windows Live. And this code, which should be on the back here, of course this is used, it was only a one-time code. And a lot of PC complaints were that they used a throwaway account, lost it, and lost the money. So what we have here is actually just the DLC. I believe this is actually just code cards. Now that's interesting. Not required to play. So you actually don't need the main game. I didn't know that. And then of course we have the complete edition. I don't know why that looks completely different, but just the way it does. Complete edition, no North American release, cardboard, no plastic. Pretty rare. Pretty rare, but you can still pick this up for about $20 on eBay. Still available on Steam in its entirety. Not very rare, but pretty damn cool. Oh, this one. Of all the games, this is the worst. Hour of Victory. The absolute worst game. Here's your code card. Of course, it's used. The absolute worst game ever. Possibly considered the worst modern first-person shooter ever released. For example, you have to stand still to regenerate health. The gunplay is shit. The graphics are shit. The voices are shit. It's garbage. This is probably the worst game almost ever. This was actually probably the hardest one for me to find. I had to resort to a friend that lives in Arkansas to send me his copy that he played and used, and he totally forgot about it. I couldn't find this anywhere, let alone find it sealed. So almost no copies sold. Absolute garbage. Hour of Victory. Definitely the coolest one out of the lot. Yes, Halo 2 was Games for Windows Live enabled. Brand new sealed. Pristine cover slip. This was the real deal. Of course, this was not released at the time of Halo 2's public debut on the Xbox 360. Believe this was 2007. Yes, it was. 2007 Microsoft Corporation. Made in Puerto Rico. The interesting thing with this is that this game was the only game that the product key for the game only worked twice. You would then have to call Microsoft helpline, provide them with your disk. There's an ID on every single disk. You would call them, and they would then reset the key. Of course, they don't do that now. This game is completely removed from online. You cannot play this online anymore. There are underground communities that have forked the game, so they don't use Games Windows Live completely without Microsoft's approval. But to play this game and get achievements, it is now 100% impossible through the standalone PC version. Excellent game. So only a handful left. We have Resident Evil. We have Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. Now, I believe both of these were actually released in North America, but finding them is pretty difficult in sealed conditions. So, Resident Evil 5, we all know that. Chef Alomar and Chris Redfield. Of course, Chris punches a rock at the end. Everyone loves that scene. It's just massive arms. In Operation Raccoon City, you can see Mr. X in the back. And I believe this guy is Ghost. I can't remember the characters. This game runs like a piece of shit on the PC. I actually re-downloaded it because it was available through Steam. Re-downloaded it, played it, and nothing but complete hard crashes on the PC, which is right over there. Nothing but hard crashes. Couldn't even play it. Couldn't even get past the tutorial without it crashing. Most of all these games actually do not fully work with Windows 10. It's just how it was. They were all developed for Vista, as you can see. And evidently Windows 7. But Resident Evil 5, pretty good. Raccoon City, pretty bad. Red Faction Guerrilla. A lot of people know this game. It's actually a pretty good game. Based around destruction. Of course, you're a gorilla. I believe it takes place on Mars, similar to Doom, but there's no demons. It's more just like bandits. Kind of in an uprising environment. Pretty good game. This was actually, I believe this was the most recent one that was patched on Steam. And it actually occurred pretty recently, 2.5, 3 years ago. Recently compared to all the other ones. It's now called Red Faction Guerrilla. I believe it's remastered on Steam, so it's completely patched out. So I believe the only way to play this now on your Xbox account is through the disc. Now, I was never a big fighting game fan, but we have Street Fighter X Tekken and Street Fighter 4. And Super Street Fighter 4. Of course, all with Ryu. In terms of fighting games, probably the most respected game there is. Very good games. I'm not very good at them. Of course, very difficult to master. Now, there's one actually particularly interesting one. That's Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. So all these games were all their own separate format, all their own separate achievement set from the Xbox 360. But with this game, if bought through Steam, this was actually changed to Ultra Fighter 4. Completely different game change. So the only game that's actually done this in the entire platform. Completely changed. The only way to actually play this game on your Xbox profile now is through the disc. Not very hard to get a copy, even today. Pretty common print. So here we have Stormrise. I believe this was like a real-time strategy game involving mechs. Not a very good game, not very popular. I believe I tried it, got past tutorial and got bored. But command conflict on every level. Yeah. No thanks. Here it is, Lost Planet 2. You'll notice there it's a bit of out of alphabetical order. But nevertheless, Lost Planet 2. What's interesting is that it's just a basic print. There's no side graphic like most games. See Stormrise, got some graphic to it. It's just Lost Planet 2. Still available on Steam. In its Games for Windows Live format. Only Lost Planet 2. was actually PC edition. Now, there's no difference actually between the PC and the Xbox 360 edition. All of the leaderboards are hacked on the PC version, so making the achievement committed to the end 100% impossible to obtain legitimately. We're talking like 0-second time runs. You can't do it. Cool game. Of course, it's a part of the Lost Planet series. Okay. Now here's another one. Kane and Lynch Dead Man. Pretty cool game. Sort of similar to A Way Out. It's just dynamic duo based. Similar to Resident Evil 5 as well. Still sealed, of course. So, of course, criminals. You don't look like very nice people now, do they? So Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days also came out. A lot of complaints about that game being very, very short. This game being longer. Yeah, the plastic's a little fucked up, but very good game, actually. So next up we have Star Wars The Clone Wars Republic Heroes. Very arcadey style. I don't know if that's Samuel Jackson, but I'm not sure if he actually voiced that character, but very arcadey, nothing special. Actually considered subpar for a Star Wars game, not very good. It was just a very simple arcadey third person with at some times a lot of platforming, which this game sucked for platforming. LucasArts, of course. Next up, Section 8. Section 8 was actually a very interesting game, similar to kind of like a preemptive to Titanfall. Jetpacks. I'm not going to call them exosuits because they're not exosuits, but you get what I mean. Very cool. Section 8 actually had a sequel called Section 8 Prejudice. This was never released physically. It was only released digitally. All of the online servers for this are shut down because South Peak actually closed its doors. And what's surprising is Microsoft never took over the servers. Good game. So next up we have Warhammer Dawn of War, number 2. So this game actually came out in 4 different variants. The most of any other game in this platform. So it had the Chaos Rising expansion, Game of the Year edition, the Gold edition, which I'm pretty sure is the same in the Game of the Year edition, and the Basic edition, which came in its own slipcover. Now the difference with this game, amongst all the others, is actually this requires you to activate Steam. So even though you get a full-on disc, you can hear it in here. All right, cross that. Might be diskless. Internet connection required. You must activate this on Steam to actually play it. So, because Steam actually patched out Games Windows Live, this game is impossible to play. Even though it still exists. Even if you don't have an internet connection, it won't install. So hence the downfall of this platform in some ways more than one. Very good game. Very respected game. Now, it will still install the game, but in terms of being impossible to play, if you want to play on your Xbox account, you can't. It's not possible. So for time's sake, I'm going to do more than one at a time. We have Tron Evolution. This actually was considered brand new and was shipped to me without any plastic covering. We all know Tron, based off the movie. They even made a video game about it. It's not very good. Come on. Did we really think it was going to be very good? Operation Flashpoint Red River, probably one of the most realistic kind of Afghanistan deployment games I've ever played. Very slow paced, lots of swearing. Of course, Codemasters made Dirt, and there was also a sequel, Operation Flashpoint, I believe it was called Dragon Rising. This was not released on Games or Windows Live. Only this was. This is still available on Steam. Pretty cheap, and pretty cheap online. And we have The Club. The Club is actually a pretty unique game. Of course, Sega, Bizarre Creations. Now, Bizarre Creations actually ended up closing their doors shortly after. And what you'll notice, a lot of these games actually do include a free 1-month Xbox Gold trial, which I can guarantee would still work today. Still sealed. The Club is a kind of a strategic shooter, point-based system. Multiple different characters, different speeds, different accuracies, different turning speeds. Pretty cool game. So, Quantum of Solace, of course, the handsome, the man himself, Daniel Craig. Pretty bad game, but still pretty cool game. In terms of movie game, not the worst. And it's actually pretty funny. Vancouver 2010. This never received a North American variant where the games were actually hosted. Just a simple sports game, points based, nothing special. Pretty rare to come by though. Pretty rare. And hey, everyone loves Viva Pinata, right? We all know Viva Pinata. Based off a TV show. You can farm, nurture, grow, that kind of stuff. Simplistic game. Last up, we have Virtua Tennis. This is actually an example of a game that just does not work on Windows 10. Is in fact almost impossible to get it working on Windows 10. You're better off just installing this on like a Windows 8 machine and getting it to work. It just hard crashes out of nowhere. Non-stop. I believe this game was rated pretty poorly. I don't think it was a very good tennis simulation game. And if you were to ask me who these people are, I have no idea. Oh, okay, Serena Williams, maybe. Don't know him. Still available on Steam. Pretty scarce online physically. Does come with a disc. And last released, you'll notice this is actually not in English, and it was never released in any English-speaking country ever. In fact, Zero should give it away. This was released in Japan. This is called Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Now, Legend of the Galactic Heroes has actually gone back quite a few years. I believe even to the Sega Dreamcast. I might be mixing myself up, but it goes back pretty far. This was released in 2008, and its suggested retail price was close to $200. So effectively, no one bought this. I have seen not a single photo of someone actually having this brand new sealed. Now, this did not come cheap. The seller on eBay, I scrounged this for years. He was actually located outside of Redmond, Washington, and he found it at a Goodwill. Now, what you might not know is that in Redmond, Washington, that's where Microsoft headquarters is located. So one could speculate that maybe someone was cleaning out their desk, tossed this to the Goodwill and an assortment of other things. Very rare game. Almost non-existent in terms of disc format. There's even a limited edition that comes with, I believe it's this ship, kind of in like a stand, and that's retail price is over $300, so completely Japanese, very rare, for Japan only. You could consider this non-existent. You can't put a price on this because these are almost never sold. maybe noticing, I am missing actually 1 or 2. And that's actually the Fallout lunchbox. Fallout 3 actually did come with a lunchbox. There's a lunchbox, and then there's an even bigger version. I believe that came with a helmet. Of course, this was almost not sold on PC, not to any large extent. This was kind of the turn of digital gaming, and you can understand that getting a $200 limited edition lunchbox is effectively unsold. So thank you for watching. This took a lot longer than I imagined, even with actually jump cutting each damn game. So there it is. And actually, yeah, fuel was printed upside down. That was normal out of the factory. So this is the entire platform. I am actually selling these piece by piece. I'll link my eBay store in the description. Thank you.